Algebra 1, Lesson 112, more on multiplication of radical expressions. Radical expressions. So, we're going to be doing multiplication of radical expressions using FOIL. If you remember, FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, and last. So, let's go ahead and start foiling. Actually, let's go with, I haven't used these colors in a while. So we'll do first times first. 2 times 3, that's pretty easy. We're going to get 6. Now let's do the outside times the outside. 2 times negative 2 root 2. So what happens here when we have a radical and a whole number, and it's being multiplied by a whole number, we just multiply the whole numbers. So we take 2 times negative 2, which is going to give me negative 4, and then we put the radical on the end. So it's going to be minus 4 times the square root of 2. Okay, so we just multiply what we can, we leave the radical on the end. So that's outside. Now let's do inside. 2 times root 3. So whole number times radical, that just becomes positive 3 root 2. Then we do last times the last, which now we have a radical times a whole number and a radical. So what we do here is we just multiply the radicals times each other, and the whole number doesn't get multiplied by anything. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 becomes square root of 4. So this becomes negative 2 times the square root of 4. Now, before we go to combine like terms, we have to see if we can rewrite any of these radicals, which we can rewrite this one, because the square root of 4 is the same as 2. So we factor this, we've got 2, we got a pair of 2's, so the 2's come out and multiply by the negative 2, which makes this negative 4 now. So now we combine like terms. Like terms we have the whole numbers, 6 and negative 4. So 6 minus 4 gives us 2. And then we have these 2 square root 2's. Now these can be combined because they both have the exact same radical. If one of these said square root 3 or square root 6, they could not be combined. But since they have the exact same radical as square root 2, we can combine them. So then we ask, what's negative 4 plus positive 3? Well, that's just negative 1, or just minus square root of 2. And that gives us our final answer. All right, next one. Now this one throws an x and a y in there. So we've got square root of 2x plus square root of 3y squared. Some of you may be tempted to try to distribute this, this squared to all the units, but that is incorrect. We cannot do that because of the plus sign. The plus sign, plus or minus sign, makes it a polynomial, which means we can't distribute the way we normally did. Like, for example, if this were written as square root of 2x square root of 3y squared, then I could distribute, and then that would just be squared, that would be squared, that would be squared, and that would be squared. Right? But this plus or minus sign makes it a polynomial, which means I cannot distribute. Not doing that. So let's do what we can do, which is we can rewrite this as a problem like this one up here. Actually, I'll do this in black. I'll rewrite it like this. I've got square root of 2 times x plus square root of 3 times y. And then instead of putting the squared, I'm just going to write it again. Square root of 2 times x plus square root of 3 times y. Because it's the same thing, right? Now we go ahead and start our FOIL. So first times the first. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is actually equal to the whole number 2. I could make that square root of 4 and then turn it into 2, but I'm going to save myself some time. So square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. And then x times x is x squared. So that's first times first. Let's go ahead and do outside times the outside. So square root of 2x times square root of 3y. Here, we multiply the square roots. Square root of 2 times square root of 3 gives me square root of 6. So this is positive square root of 6. And then x and y can't multiply, so we just write them next to each other. Now we do the square root, now we multiply the insides. And the insides is the same multiplication but backwards. Square root of 3y times square root of 2x. So that's going to be plus square root of 6xy. Now we do last times the last, which is square root of 3y times square root of 3y. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just going to give me whole number 3, and then y times y gives me y squared. Now, is there any like terms that I can add? Or are there any like terms I can add? Well, we see that square root of 6 xy and square root of 6 xy are like terms. Now, what's tricky about these is where do we put the coefficient? Because neither one of these have a coefficient. So we have to think of square root of 6 xy as one term, and the coefficient would be the invisible one here and the invisible one here. So when we add these, what it actually becomes is 2 square root of 6 xy. So our first term is 2x squared. Our last term is 3y squared. And this is our final answer. All right, that's all for this lesson. If you guys have any questions, let me know on Moodle, and I will see you in class.